Everybody, welcome to Steel Tools to Stilettos. Shout out to Watts over there in the back, the engineer, the producer. He always gives us this shaky countdown that I can't understand. So if we look like we kind of like still trying to get it together, blame it on Watts, okay? But nonetheless, welcome to another episode of Steel Toes to Stilettos. I am so excited because today's episode is going to be so powerful. I have 5 guests in the studio with me today, 5 beautiful guests, 5 strong guests, 5 survivors are here with me in the studio. We all know it's October, and we all know what October is. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I felt it was my duty to represent and to lay out a platform for the survivors to come tell their story. We all know Still Toes to Stilettos is about the grit and the grace. It's about tragedy to triumph. And it's all about motivating and empowering you. Before I go any further, I have to acknowledge my mother-in-law, Miss Monica Jones, who is a breast cancer survivor. She did receive her wings in 2019. So she is definitely one of the reasons for this show today. This is in memory of her. She's a Jones girl. Shout out to the Jones family. My mother-in-law was awesome, y'all. I was able to spend probably a good 2 years with my mother-in-law, right? Before she passed and she received her wings. And we had such an organic relationship. And in that 2 years, she taught me a lot. She taught me a lot, and she was a real one, a real one. She's out of Chester, Pennsylvania, and if anybody knows Monica Jones, they know what I mean. They know the vibes. And she was just one of those people, you know what I mean? One of those people who was so giving. Anybody can talk to her, no judgment zone, always giving, place to stay, money, an ear to listen to. So she was just that girl. So I definitely have to give a shout out to my mother-in-law, gone but not forgotten. So let's get into it. We want to introduce our guests. Like I said, we have 5 guests here, right? We all have our tissues on the side of us, tucked underneath of us. We're going to try to get through this episode without dropping a tear. But if we do drop a tear, y'all, it's all right. It is quite all right. These are going to be, tears of strength, tears of joy, because you guys are still here to tell the story, still here to give your testimony. So which way we want to start? We going to start from the right, or we going to start from the left?
Go ahead, Shay. Take it.
Yeah, go ahead, Shay.
Okay, so introducing myself first.
Yes, put the mic up to you.
Okay, so my name is Shay Robinson. I am a cancer conqueror. I kind of changed that dialogue a little bit.
I like that.
For myself, we're still overcomers and survivors, but I like the word conqueror because that's what the Bible says, So, want me to continue?
Pass the mic.
Okay.
Pass the mic. We're going to come back to you. Shay, the conqueror, the cancer conqueror, period.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. My name is Imani English. I'm going to steal what you said or borrow. I am a recent cancer conqueror. I am a mother, a wife, and a daughter, along with so many other titles. But I'm glad to be here, glad to share my story with you, all the viewers, and just to discuss our journey together.
Thank you so much for coming in. Okay.
Hey, I'm Nikki. I am a cancer conqueror because I love that. We need shirts with that. Cancer conqueror.
Yes. You got to brand that and start.
Absolutely.
You have to start selling those. Yes, period.
Okay.
Yes.
I got diagnosed with breast cancer on December the 18th of 2020. And I'm just so grateful and thankful to be here today.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So, hi, everybody. My name is Adrienne Karn, and I am a conqueror as well. So I am surviving. I am a 4-month survivor at this point. So glory be to God that I'm still here. And as long as I have breath, I have purpose. So I'm excited to be here, share the obstacles, my journey. And if it can help one person, then I've done what I needed to do.
Absolutely.
Hello, my name is Crystal. I am an 8-year survivor. It'll be 9 in October. I'm a conqueror. I'm sorry. I got to change that. Because that's we all
got to get used to it. We got to get used to saying that.
Right. We are adopting that now.
Yes.
I'm a conqueror. More than a conqueror.
Period.
Yes.
So I'm happy to be here to share my story as well. And I think that God makes no mistakes, and we were given this assignment to
Yes.
share and to encourage other people. So I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so being so you have the mic, tell us about how you first heard about your diagnosis.
I went for my annual mammogram, and they saw nothing. They didn't see anything. I said, "There's something there." It was my annual, but I knew I was feeling something. So I got an ultrasound done. That was in 2017, and they were able to see it on the ultrasound. And one thing I learned from that experience is you have to be your own advocate. So that's
When
one
you say
thing.
you felt something, you felt from your own self breast
Yes, my
examination.
own self exams, and that's something else that we all push, doing self exams.
So you did exams regularly?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So whenever I am sharing with women, I always say, do your own self exams because you find them more than the mammograms do. I
Wow.
mean, mammograms find them, but your self exams, you have to know your own body.
And what did it feel like?
It was a sore spot. I was stage 1, so it was very small, but there was a sore spot, and I was thinking my bra, the wire in my bra was sticking me.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't push it. And then when I went for my mammogram, I said, well, I just feel something there. I don't know if it's my bra or what, and then
That's what. Okay.
that's when
All
it
right.
was found.
Shay, tell me how you found out about your diagnosis.
Sort of similar. So I was having issues with both my breasts at one point. So I had gone back and forth to the doctors, and I had all these different tests, MRIs, and so forth. And I had got my mammogram in February of 2015, and like Crystal was saying, I was doing my own self checks too.
Okay.
So it was in April. It was like April, in April, and I was in the shower. So let me just do a self check. Did a self check, and I felt it. It felt like a stone, like a rock.
Was it sore?
It wasn't sore.
Okay.
It was just like somebody put a rock underneath my skin.
Okay.
And I remember from my recent test, they said, cancer doesn't change its form. So I was having other issues before, and I think they were cysts. They were cysts before, but this one was different. So I just took a moment to pause, and I waited. I didn't say anything to anybody, and I checked it, a week later, and it was still the same. I was like, okay. In my head, I knew, but I was believing it wasn't. And when I finally went to the doctors to get checked, yes, that's what it was. So yeah, it felt like a pebble, like a pebble in my breast.
Wow. Imani, how did you find out?
So one evening, I was kind of doing a similar like exam of my breast, and I asked my husband. I felt a knot in my right breast, and I asked my husband to come in, like just confirm, like, hey, do you feel what I'm feeling? Do you feel this? And as he approached me, of course, he was making a joke, like, it is really probably nothing. Like, you're making a big deal. And then immediately after he touched it, he said, no, I do feel it. And his expression was of concern. And he said, I want you to go get that evaluated. And of course, being a mother, 3 young children, I said, okay. He said, no, this time don't push it off. Go have that looked at immediately. So I went to work the next day, and he called me repeatedly. And I said to my boss I was going to have it evaluated. And I went to my OBGYN. And it was interesting. When I first made the appointment, I called my general physician. And their practice told me, and I expressed what my reason for my call was. And my physician's office said, oh, she doesn't have any openings until March. And this was in November of 2023. So she said, oh, she doesn't have any openings until March of 2024. And I would advise you to call your gynecologist. And I was like, oh, I wanted to call her anyway. I was just calling you. And I called my gynecologist and went in, and she did the breast exam, and she immediately said, no, that doesn't feel normal. And as they were scheduling and calling Women's Imaging, they asked me, I asked her separately, I said, does it feel like a cyst? Does it feel like, anything? And she said, no, I think it's something serious. And I went and had it examined or had the ultrasound. And they did several spots. And one of the technicians said, oh, have you ever noticed that indent right there? And I was like, oh, no. She was like, oh, don't worry about it. And just from her question, I was like, oh, okay. You kind of noticed something.
Right.
And when they were finished, they asked, and it wasn't my first mammogram either. I had one earlier. And she said, do you have somebody here with you? And I looked and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, my husband's in the waiting area, and they brought us back to a room. And she said, we want to let you know that we observe, some areas of concern. We do see some things. And I said, okay. So when we say a concern on a scale of 1 to 10, what level is your concern? And she said, well, our scale is from 1 to 6. And based on what we see, you are a 5. And I said, okay. And she said, with 6 being, we know that it's cancerous, where you're a 5. And I said, okay, so the next step is a biopsy. Are you doing this to confirm it's breast cancer, or are you just doing this to basically, like, you already know? And she said, no, we kind of already know. So that's how I found out. And it's been a 2-year journey since then.
2-year journey since
2-year
then.
journey, that's it.
Adrian.
So I'm listening to all of you ladies, and mine is totally different. So I went for my annual mammogram, like I always do. I do my exams, and there was nothing. Like, I felt absolutely nothing. So when I went and I had the mammogram, they called me back and said they saw something, I needed to have an ultrasound. And I was just like, I don't have time for this. I'm having foot surgery. So I pushed it off for a couple months. And when I finally talked to my doctor, he was like, Adrienne, you really need to go. And I went and had the ultrasound, thinking it was a waste of time, because we felt nothing. I didn't feel anything. My husband didn't, like, no one, because I had other people, am I missing it? Am I doing it wrong? Let me hold my arm different. We felt absolutely nothing. And I went for the ultrasound, and they immediately did a biopsy. And within 3 weeks, I was in front of a cancer doctor telling me I had cancer. Yeah. And he was even amazed, because he did an exam and didn't feel it. So I always encourage people, get your exam. Like, get your mammogram. You got to get your mammogram, because we felt absolutely nothing. Like, nothing. And that's how I found out. And yeah, that's how I found out.
And when you told me that, I was like,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. And initially I was putting off the ultrasound. Like, I don't have time for it. I just paid a copay. You know them copays.
Right.
Girl, I had just paid the copay for my foot surgery, and I was like, I don't have time. I'm not giving y'all another few $100s for nothing for y'all to tell me it's a mass or it's nothing. Right. And, but I thank God that I did follow through and go, because we felt nothing. Nothing. So.
Wow. Nick?
So I'm going to go back a little bit. In 2014, I actually worked for a breast surgeon and GYN oncologist, so it wasn't nothing for me to do my own breast exams, because that's what they told us to do, So it was Thanksgiving 2020, the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, everybody out shopping. And I'm laying across my bed, and I had just came off my menstrual period, so that's the time that I check. And while I'm laying across the bed, and I stick my one arm out, and I do it. So I did my massage, feeling, and I'm like, left felt fine, and I went to the right, and I'm like, something ain't right. So then I did it again, and I was like, I feel something. So I called my best friend, Nitia. And I said, TT, I felt a lump. And she was like, girl, stop playing. And I was like, no, I really feel a lump. And she was like, well, go get a check, So one of my mentors is my GYN my GYN nurse practitioner. And so Ms. Val, she was on vacation. It was on a Friday. I called her. She was on vacation. And then Monday, she called me back and said, "What's going on, girl?" And I said, "I felt a lump." And she was like, "All right." She's like, "I'm going to put you in as a sick visit. Just come on in." So I came on there and she did the exam and she was like, maybe. She was like, "Girl, you been drinking Pepsis a lot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love my Pepsi, right?" So she was like, "Maybe it's just like a caffeine lump. And I'm 42 and I didn't go get my mammogram. So she was like, "I'm going to set you up for a mammogram and also an ultrasound. So let's get that looked at." So just like everybody else said, on the mammogram, it showed nothing. So I'm like, it's something here. So then they did the biopsy. They did the actual ultrasound. So after I got the ultrasound done, they called me back and said, he was like, "I'm going to set you up for a biopsy." So as I'm laying on the table, and I like how she said, be an advocate for yourself and speak up, So I'm laying on the table and they're doing my biopsy. And they are actually talking over top of me. And so I have been a medical assistant since 1998. So I know medical terminology. Mm-hmm. So the doctor is saying to the nurse, "Did they put for her lymph nodes as well on there?" And she was like, "No, they don't have that on there. So we just going to do what they say to do." So he went on and did the biopsy, but he kept going in this circle, going in this spot underneath of my right breast, like all up near my lymph nodes and all of that. And so with the ultrasound, but then he went on and did the actual biopsy. So after he got done doing the biopsy, they tell you that was on a Wednesday, December the 16th, they did the biopsy. And December the 18th, he called me. It was like, same thing. "Do you have somebody around?" And I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "My boyfriend is right here." And they actually said, he was like, "You have cancer." I said, "I already know." And he said, "Why did you say that?" And I was like, "Because you guys were talking over top of me." And I said, I said, you guys need to be a little bit more careful and get to know your patient, because you never know if they have a medical background or anything. And so that is my story.
Wow. It's amazing how there's so many similarities, but then so many differences as well.
Right.
As women, I think it's important, like you said, to be our own advocate. And when something doesn't feel right, to definitely follow up on it. So I commend you ladies for that, because again, I never felt anything. And if I wasn't adamant about my annual exams, my physicals, because I'm 54, so I have I got to take care of myself, and it's like, so I try to maintain those annual visits, but I stress it all the time. Like, I never felt anything. Like, you feel it, it triggers something. But what do you do if you don't feel it? And like you said, you're a mom, you're busy, and you may keep pushing it off thinking nothing's wrong and everything's, good to go. So just following up on that is so important.
Right. I think for me, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I think for me, because when you mentioned being your own advocate, and because of my own experience of some of you may know that my first husband passed a sickle cell disease, so I've been an advocate. So to getting your regular checkups, it was adamant for me to be consistent in doing that. So that was very important. So that's why it was also important to do my self checks, even though I just had a mammogram like 2 months prior.
Right.
What if I had waited a whole year?
Wow.
My diagnosis would have went from stage 1 it went from stage 1A to 2B within a couple months. So it went to my lymph nodes. So they had to go in and do an FNA to do that.
So basically, everyone here was doing their own self-examinations.
Yes.
Yes.
That's like the most important thing that you can do is do your own. You have to learn your own body. Right. You have to learn what your breast feels like, because you have to be the one who is your own advocate, right. Because a lot of times they don't believe that, that's what it is, especially if you're younger. It's like, oh, she don't have that, this, that, and the third. I tell everyone, please do your exams on a monthly basis.
For you ladies who did not have a lump, did not feel anything, what was it like, Imani, Adrian, when you found out? Like, what was the eternal feeling. Like, how did it impact you? I'm sitting here listening to your stories, and I'm trying to put myself where you could have been at that moment. Putting myself in your shoes, because I feel like something like this, you don't know really what it feels like unless you're that person. You know what I mean? It's really, you can empathize and sympathize, but you really don't know what it's like, especially if you had no heads up. You're like, no heads up? Yeah. You just go to the doctor and you think you great, walk out the doctor and go back home and continue on with your life, and then your whole life has changed in a matter of an hour, seconds.
So for me, it was a gut punch. The wind was knocked out of me because I wasn't expecting it. I'm Superwoman. I don't take any medication for anything. I'm 54. I'm healthy. I don't have issues, glory be to God, with diabetes, high blood pressure. Like, I take no... Some of the nurses and the doctors would always say to me, oh, we need to update your chart because they didn't list your medications. I don't have any. Right. I don't take medicine. So for them to say, well, we're going to do this ultrasound, but you have to wait. And I'm sitting there. I call my god sister because she works in the lab across the street. She came over. And I said, this is just protocol. I'm good. Then they say, we got to do the biopsy. And I'm like, okay, and why are we doing this? So my husband goes with me. And then they say, we're going to put a clip in. That's when I started sweating. And I'm like, time out. What are they marking? Why are you... So I asked, why are you marking this? Well, we want to monitor it because if it does come back benign, we just want to monitor it so we know what it looks like next year. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. So then when I get the call and they're like, we're going to schedule you to meet with Dr. Verdone, and I'm like, okay. And I sit there with my husband and he says, Adrienne, I don't know how to say this. You have breast cancer. And I think I missed the next couple minutes because the wind was knocked out of my sails. And I immediately thought of my granddaughter. I immediately thought of my family. I immediately thought about all the people that I help and support. And how do I now navigate this and still do what I do and still be Adrienne to everyone else?
So wait a minute. I'm sorry. So in that moment that the doctor told you have been diagnosed with breast cancer, you were still thinking about other people. You weren't even thinking about yourself. Like, you wasn't even thinking about yourself. You was thinking about your granddaughter and how you were still going to continue to serve others.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody's like, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And whether you knew you had something there or not, you still get that gut punch.
Yes.
Regardless.
Yes.
As soon as you hear the word cancer.
Yes.
Now, I didn't get it until they said I had it. Because I said the devil
what I
is a
mean.
liar.
That's
Oh,
what I
okay. I'm
mean.
sorry. I just
And
wanted to
so
clarify.
when that
'Cause
doctor
I said,
says-
hold on. Yeah.
And that's one thing I want to change. We need to change our language too, because I never said I had it.
Amen.
I was diagnosed with it.
Amen.
Because I felt like if I said I had it, I was welcoming it into my body. Yes, the truth was they diagnosed me with it, but I wasn't going to walk around I wasn't going to, that's not welcoming sickness into my home.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm like, you're not welcome here.
Yes.
So you're not going to get comfortable here.
Amen.
So I didn't welcome it. So I really had to really change my mindset. No, I don't have it. I tell people, no, I didn't have it. I was diagnosed with it though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm living through it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
How did it impact your families?
Wow. So for me,
Wait a minute, hold on. Before you answer that question,
Yes.
did anybody not tell their family right away?
oh no.
Well, I'll answer that. To answer your question, no. I did not. I did tell my family right away, but I did not want to tell my family right away. And the only reason that my family knew is because my husband was adamant that you need to tell you need to tell your mom, you need to tell your parents at least. And then we are a very close, tight-knit family. So from there, everyone kind of found out. But at the same time, we had a close family member that was transitioning. So we all so as I was being diagnosed, we had a family member, my mom's niece was actually transitioning. She passed away from sickle cell. So, and So it was a very sensitive time. And although, and I had just turned 40, 6 months prior to being diagnosed. And it was also very sensitive because my grandmother had passed away from breast cancer. And of her daughters and granddaughters, I was the only one that I have been the only one diagnosed with breast cancer. So it was very hard, especially for me to tell my mother, because I felt like it was ripping a Band-Aid back off, for she and her siblings. And but I told them.
You told
I
them?
did
You had
tell
to
them. I did
face
tell
it.
them. And it was good. I had, my husband was kind of forced it because I don't think I would have.
Your husband made you go to the doctors.
He didn't make me go to the doctor.
Like,
but
are you hard-headed?
what?
Are you stubborn?
I'm a mom. I'm a mom of 3 active boys, and that's
a yes.
that's
I'm like, are you answering the question? Like she said, I said, are you stubborn? She said, I'm a mom. I'm like,
no. And
I'm a mom too.
it's not that. I think sometimes, to your point, when you ask, did I not feel the lump? It wasn't anything visible to make me see there was a concern. You're sick, you don't feel well, you go to the doctor. You, when it's visible, you respond differently.
Right.
But this is something you don't see. I was healthy, I was
You didn't feel
active,
sick.
I didn't feel sick, I was gaining weight. There was nothing to make me think something was going on. The only thing that, in retrospect, I can think of is my son was 5. He was running. He ran into my chest. But I thought the lump was because he ran hard into me. So I was like, oh, that is a lump. And it took me maybe 3 months into starting chemo to remember you did feel this lump before. Because when they were doing all the pre-op or anything, like going into it, I was like, nope, never felt it. Nope, never felt it. And then one day in the chemo chair, I was like, you know what? Because you got time on your hand.
Sure
You're
do.
sitting thinking,
Sure do.
did I miss this? Did I, what is going on? I'm pretty much, I'm on top of it. So, and I was like, you know what? You did feel
Seriously.
it. And the lump was there. You just dismissed it as, oh, he ran into you. And I checked after that and didn't feel it. So to find it again one night, planning because I found it the week before Thanksgiving break or Thanksgiving, and my biopsy was Black Friday. So I spent Thanksgiving 2023 thinking like, oh, tomorrow, I got to go have this biopsy. And,
And at that time, did your family know?
the only person who knew was my mother and one of my cousins. But everyone else was like, oh, maybe it's a cyst. Maybe it's this. But in my mind, when they told me it was breast cancer, like it was on a number 5 or on a scale of 1 to 6, it was a 5. I knew.
You knew.
I knew. And kind of like you said, like I work in pharma. I work in one of the drugs I worked on was a potential breast cancer drug. So just hearing different things, knowing about how cells just mutate in, I was just like, no, this is breast cancer. This is it's what it is.
I was still in denial.
And I
And
didn't.
when you ask how do you feel? Until you walk it, or until you, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. You cannot describe what you feel. We could say it knocks you off your feet. It was the first time I ever had a knee buckling experience. And like they say, you think, first thing I was crying in the office and saying my kids, I can't leave my kids.
For sure.
Right.
The first thing, for sure.
That's the first thing. The first thing you think of are your family members or those that are going to be impacted by this diagnosis. But you can't describe that feeling to anyone. So we can sit here and say, "Oh, it's this," but until you
go through
walk
it.
it,
Walk
Till you
it.
go through
you
it.
can't
You
describe
can't.
it. Like you said, after you're diagnosed, after I cried and then they want to sit you down and make an appointment. I was in a fog. And they were asking me well, when do you want your biopsy? When do you want? And I was just sitting there like, because you don't know. You're sitting there going, what the heck?
It's like I can't
is
even think
going
right now.
on?
You gotta give me
Yes.
time to digest
Yes.
what you just told me. Like I probably need to go home, seek therapy first, and then come back and we can proceed and we could talk about
You don't
what
have
the
to
You don't
next
even have
steps
time
You
for
don't
are.
have
that.
time.
You don't have
You don't have
time for
time.
that.
I know that's just the feeling. Like,
Yeah.
hold on. Like, wait a minute. Like,
Therapy it takes
it's not
4 to
even
6 weeks to get in there. By then, it's
No, for
probably.
Let me
me,
tell
it
you,
was-
when they
get it
asked
out.
me, when
Get
do
it
you
out.
want your biopsy? And they gave me a date, I just couldn't think of anything. And the only thing I could say was that date. I was like, oh, I have to put my car in the shop.
like
And the doctors looked at me, and my husband was like, she'll be there. Like, did you just say you have to put but you cannot process what is going on? Like, what?
I think I approached it differently when I went to go tell my family. So I didn't want to go to them in emotion, right? Because of the simple fact that my children had lost their father.
Okay.
Pretty much died in their home. I was doing chest compressions on my kitchen floor. So my process of thinking was
I'm
I
sorry,
got
what year was this?
that was 2012.
Okay.
January 2012. He died 3 days before my son's 8th birthday.
Okay.
So I'm remarried, and I went to them with a positive attitude. I went to my oldest daughter first. She was in college at the time, and I was like, "Hey, look, this is what it is. I've been diagnosed. They said, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. But look, we're going to get through this thing.
Yes.
This ain't going to stop nothing. We're going to keep pressing. We're going to keep moving because I really wanted to change, to have their mindset and build up their faith in the process.
Yes,
I
yes.
waited to tell my younger children, which was, she was 15. My younger daughter was 15. And my son was just about, 11. I waited to tell them because they were still in school. And my son is such a, he's so emphatic. He picks up on everything. So he was like, Mom, you okay? I was in Target. I had to tell my son in Target because this is how he was like, Mom, what's wrong? I said, I'm okay. He said, he grabbed my head, was like, no, Mom, what's wrong? So I'm like, son, I'm good. So I had to tell him the aisle of Target. And I told him, I said, look, son, I said, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And he lost it. And I let him cry for a minute. I said, listen, it's going to be okay. He said, I'm going, because what he said was, I'm going to lose my mom too. I said, no, you're not. I had to be more aggressive in this process because I needed them to see, they needed to see my faith in this process. Because if I walked
Yes.
around like I was going to die,
Yes.
they saw it happen.
Yes.
He was the one that woke me up that found his dad.
Yes.
So he saw it happen.
Yes.
So I couldn't let him feel that, even though life can happen at any time. So I said to him, I said, I'm going to help you change your language. I don't know what scripture I gave him, but I said, I want you to keep saying this over and over again until you believe it. Because he didn't believe it because all he can see was
It's that.
death. Right. Sickness, sickle cell, death, cancer, death. So I had to just change it. So I think the person I was more concerned at the time was my husband now, because we had just buried his father January 20th of that year of 2015. And I remember when they came into the doctor's office and like you said something, this is just protocol, 'cause I'm like, okay, they're going to just come in here and tell me it's not cancer. Cause I heard them whispering outside the door. She came in and was like, stroked me on my cheek. She's like, I'm sorry, Shay, it's cancer. And I looked at my husband in the corner and some tears came down my eyes. And I was like, when I saw him, I said, I'm going to be okay. I said, we're going to be okay. Because I just saw the fear because of just burying his dad just a few months prior. So my approach was a little different with them.
How did you? I'm sorry, go ahead,
gonna
Chris.
I was going to say my approach had to be positive as well because my son's father passed away when he was 3. So telling him, he was afraid he was going to lose his mom,
Absolutely.
have no parents. But they call me the hospice nurse.
Are you a hospice nurse?
No,
But you care.
but I have lost 2 sisters to cancer. One, not breast cancer. Breast cancer never came in mind for me.
Right.
I lost one sister to throat cancer and another sister to ovarian cancer, and my father to pancreatic cancer. So I was a caregiver for all of them.
Okay.
So when it was my mom I was concerned about because I saw her buckle when I told her. And I had to take that approach. And my sister-in-law had breast cancer, so she said, when you tell people, be positive.
Yes.
You know,
Okay.
you have to go in with, okay, I'm about to tell you this, but don't worry.
Gotcha.
Yes.
'Cause
Don't cry. That's what I
right,
tell
don't
telling
cry,
everybody.
and
Don't cry.
God's
I'm
got
gonna
you
be okay.
covered. And then I guess because my sister-in-law went through it, and they saw how she made it through, then it was a little easier for the family to take
Okay.
it.
Yes.
But
I can
we
see
were
that.
all struggling because we have
Deal
lost so much
dealt with
cancer.
it. Yes, it was hard. What about you, Nick? Was you gonna say something?
So yeah, I was gonna say I only told my immediate family, and I made
With
them
your
make a
children, when you
problem.
say-
My children, my parents, and my siblings.
Okay.
And my best friend. That's the
Okay.
only ones I wanted to know, because I didn't want nobody to feel sorry for me. That was the number one thing for me. I didn't want nobody to feel sorry for me. I didn't want nobody to take a pity for me. I just wanted to take this on my back, get through what I had to get through, and then keep it moving. All I could think about was Razan. Razan was in 11th grade.
That's her son, y'all.
That's my son. That's my youngest son. And so Razan was in 11th grade, and all I kept praying for is, God, just allow me to see him graduate. If I'm a single mom of 3 kids, and my other 2 graduated, I just wanted to see him graduate. And that was going to be enough for me, was to see him graduate. Now I'm able to see him graduate. He's now 20 years old. And I have 2 grandchildren, and I'm very proud. But that's all. And I did not tell the world. I didn't even tell the world. I remember I was 2 days prior to my last chemo appointment, and my best friend wrote this whole big speech that she was going to post on Facebook. And she asked for my permission. I told her, because I kept telling her about, I don't want the world to know. Right. And she was like, you're my shero. She was like, with all the resilience that you have, like, I have to tell the world what you've been through. And so she wrote this whole speech, and I told her, only if I could read it first before you post it. So I read it, and I read it to my daughter, and she was like, Mom, go ahead and let her post it. You done now. You're a survivor. You're done. You got one last chemo appointment, and let's go. So after that, then the world knew. But I only wanted a select few people to know what was going on.